G'day guys, welcome. It is a Monday and I'm a little bit late with this review, but that's okay. I've just been feeding little Vossi. It was making quite a racket before. He's not in a good mood. He's not in a good mood, guys, little Vossi, but he is. Okay, he is just been having a word to his midfield group. All right. And there he is. He's just feeling the pinch at the moment. A little bit of pressure. As the season unfolds, and given the situation we're in at the moment, little Vossi's not too happy, so I better put him back in his tank. All right, so where do we sit? Where do we sit? I'm not angry. For a start, I'm not angry. And I must say, every loss like this stings. There's no doubt about that. And we've had a few over the last few weeks. In fact, we've gone loss, win, loss, win, loss. But I'm generally excited to see how the rest of the season pans out. And there's no need for absolute panic at the moment because we are still there. But at the same time, it's a shit fight and a grind. That's okay. It's exciting. That's sort of exciting, and that's football. And it's going to be an unbelievable finish to the season. So I'm not angry. I've got no idea. How it's going to play out for us. It could go either way, and I mean, I think there's been a level of trust built up in this group, and I think they've earned that. I don't think we've been blown out of water in games. I think we've given ourselves a chance over the last, in this difficult period, and it's going to continue to be a difficult period right to the end of the year now. It is a shit fight, and it's almost like it's a survival of the fittest. And I'm not talking survival from a physical point of view, which is important, but also probably more survival of the strongest. And you look at the big players at the moment. You look at Melbourne, Geelong, and now Richmond sort of coming through, who just appear to maybe have that stronger mentality than us. The fact that they've been there and done that over a significant period of time. Not so much Melbourne, but they did obviously win the flag last year. And are we starting to feel the pinch mentally? Because we are in that bounce back mode. We've become that little bit inconsistent, but we are in games. So we're showing when we are capable. We are capable. So when you're in games and you lose in the manner in which we lose, sometimes you go, fuck, we could have won that. So on the one hand, it shows we are capable. We've got possibly the talent to do it. But whether we're getting things right, whether we've got the right mix at the moment, I'm not quite sure. I can't work it out. All I know is it's going to be a fucking grind to the rest of the year. And I don't want to be this bounce back mode team, but that could be just the journey at the moment, or this bounce back. Do we need a rocket to respond next week against the Eagles? What does that mean the following week against Geelong? Because you would have thought that building that momentum and building that confidence and belief against the Dockers last week, how couldn't we replicate anywhere near that against St Kilda? Or is that taking away anything from St Kilda? Were they just far too good for us on the night? They certainly looked like a football team that wanted to embrace the challenge more than what we did, particularly early in that game. And every time it felt like we were going to get away from them, and they found something. Okay, they found something in there that we could not find. That stings. And to see the level of excitement amongst that St Kilda group, that it meant more to them, really. I don't know. Did we freeze up? Have we? I don't know. Like poor kicking for goal. That's up here as much as it's a physical thing. Poor skill execution. We've shown that we can hang on to the ball. We've shown that our skills have improved. But terrible on is it a one-off, or are we feeling the pinch? Are we handling the occasion? Feels like every loss we've had over the last bit. Richmond, shocking start. Collingwood, poor start. Even Fremantle last week coughed up the first 3 goals built into the game. We weren't great against Essendon in the first quarter. It probably needs to be addressed. It'll be something we'll closely watch against the Eagles this Sunday. What will we look like at the start of that game? Will our midfield be on their toes? Because our midfield's a bit of a concern at the moment. They've been, and you look at the numbers, you look at, the likes of Walsh 33, Cripps 31. Walsh has had 33 disposals, 286 metres game. Cripps has had 31 disposals, 316 metres game. Both didn't hit the scoreboard. Cripps kicked 13 goals in his first 7 games he played this year. I think he's kicked 3 in his last 7. Walsh has kicked 4 goals for the season. They're not having big impacts on the game. And Walsh was tremendous last week. He was the point of difference. His breakaway from stoppage enabled us to get that ball inside forward 50 and restrict. Our midfield really to restrict and protected our defence last week, but that's a one-off. It's been really, it's been quite sort of, I wouldn't say poor, but it's been a concern now for a significant period of time, off to a flying start of the season. Something's not quite right in there. Is it TDK? It could be. It could be TDK. I mean, he's been marvellous. In fact, this stretch of 8 or so games since Pitnet went down has probably been the best thing for him as a footballer. But for us as a team, I know moving forward it might be okay, but for us this year, I don't know, are we just waiting for Pitnet to come back? And what does that look like moving forward as well? Because where does that leave TDK in our front half? How do we work that? Because early in the year it didn't work. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to. Thought St Kilda were great in that first quarter. They I don't know, they just seem to want to be out there, and they built their excitement. They played with flair, they played with dare, they were strong at the contest. And I looked at our team even before the game, and it's probably something I didn't discuss a lot of in the preview. But when I was at the game on Friday night, I got there really early. And I'm talking like, an hour and a half before the bounce of the ball. There was all this talk about some sort of fucking Firelight Festival or something. So we just completely calculated the time we needed to get there. So we were in our seats a good hour and a half before the game, probably too long, just sort of sitting there. But I was there when some of the players just come out for their, a bit of kick to kick. Some wander up the ground, have a look around. A few of the young guys have snaps for goals. Then they go back inside. Then the whole groups, both teams come out for their main warm up. But that first little one where some players came out, I was sitting with my daughter, and we were quite close to 3 of our players, and they were having snaps for goal. And those 3 were Josh Honey, Jesse Motlop, and Corey Durden. And I mean, it just occurred to me then, I just looked at them and thought, fuck, they're young. Motlop first-year player, Corey Durden second-year player, and Josh Honey third-year player. But Josh Honey, a rookie, he's played, I think, 8 games. Motlop, 5 games. Corey Durden, 16 games. That's 29 games between 3 small forwards in your front half. Now, every team's got young players. And I'm not making excuses. But I just thought then and there, but fuck, that's inexperience. That is inexperience there. You're asking three of those players to play a significant role. Whether that is just defensively or offensively. And I thought Motlop was really good from an opportunist point of view. I thought he gave us spark, not only in the front half, but I thought he gave a little bit of spark around the ground as well. So it's not a knock, and in fact, they're not a knock on any of those guys. Because projecting forward, you see it as a positive. They're getting opportunities now, but you're asking those three guys with 29 games between them to play a significant role. I mean, you could have 1, 2 at a pinch, but 3. I don't know. You look up the other end, Butler, Higgins, a lot more experience, and I don't know. I just felt like, and then I sort of look across and I saw Tom DeConning, and I think 36 games up against Ryder, 279, Marshall's 79. DeConning just turned 22. Marshall's 26 years of age. I know how Ryder is. He's probably about 53. Just come back into the team. And then I look at our young backs. Then I look down in our back half. And I look at Brody Kemp, 5 games. And I don't even know what Brody Kemp's going to be. And he's certainly not a key position defender. And I look at Lewis Young, who's been tremendous. 36 games as our number 1 key back. And I just thought then and then, shit, a lot's going to have to go right for us again this week for us to pull this game off. And I just think St Kilda's, and they had a couple of young guys running around, I just thought their experience, particularly around the ground and around the ball, and this is why I was really disappointed with the loss from a midfield point of view, because that's one part of our team that hasn't been really affected is our midfield. But they just had it over us, and I did end up watching the replay later on, and I did see Cripps pull Corey Durden. I think it was Corey Durden and Josh Honey aside early in that game, and he almost had. He sort of grabbed both of them. He was like this fucking big father figure. He sort of grabbed them like this, and he sort of had this encouraging yet stern word to these 2 youngsters. And it occurred to me then that as much as we've shown some significant growth this year, there's still a lot of holes in this team. And chuck into the mix, O'Brien and Cottrell, who are still, I think, finding their way. And we still don't know whether they're going to be long-term prospects. We're hoping they will. I don't know. I don't know. I just think, yeah. When you think about it that way, it wasn't so much of a surprise. St Kilda looked experienced, they looked big, they looked strong, they controlled the aerial contest around the ground, particularly with Marshall. And they got us forward as centre with their big boys, eventually got us, and our mids could not protect. And it's all about protecting that back 6 at the moment. And we couldn't do it. King, Membry is always a headache for us. He's got a terrific work rate. And when Marshall was down there as well, and when Ryder was down there as well, they just caused plenty of headaches. And up the other end, we were just, we just didn't have our kicking boots on. And our inaccuracy, yeah, we could mount an argument that it cost us. But poor kicking is poor football, and did the pressure is the pressure starting to build? It certainly felt that way on the night. When Harry's, leading to pockets, having shots from the boundary line, and big TDK taking that terrific mark and going back. It reminded me a little bit of that night when Robbie Warnock. I don't know if you remember that night, guys, when Robbie Warnock against the Cats late in the game, and I know TDK's missed shot was in the 3rd quarter against the Saints, but Robbie Warnock, poor guy, missed a shot from about 15, 20 metres out to seal the game for us, to win the game for us against the Cats, and he sprayed it. It sort of reminded me of that. So I don't know, I just feel our midfield group at the moment, we're just relying on them too much. And they're not in stellar form. they've been in okay form, and you look at the numbers, you go through the numbers, you look at Hewitt, 10 tackles, 22 disposals, you look at Kennedy, 21 disposals, and a couple of goals, and you throw in Walsh and Cripps, who have big numbers, but you just sort of look, something's not working in there. They look flat-footed, they look a little bit slow. And I think for the first time this year, we could probably look at selection and ask some serious questions about why Adam Chera played. And in hindsight, it's okay for us now to go, like, he didn't play well. He was always going to play. But what the fuck's going on with his knee for a start? He's had a hamstring injury. It's okay to come back in. It's okay to come back in after a few weeks out and just be a little bit rusty. But this wasn't rust. This was an injury. Okay, he didn't look right. His knee was heavily bandaged, and he didn't move well. And to play him on a wing where I don't think he's played on a wing for much of the year at all, and to disrupt that part of the ground where the week before Cottrell and O'Brien were outstanding in that role, and Yoon sort of rotating through there as well. To disrupt that, just to bring Adam Chera into the game or into the team, where the only change was made was defender out. So we'll put Nunes back. And Nunes has showed he's not a great defender. I don't know, I just thought it stunk. And everyone needs to take responsibility. The players need to take responsibility for an off night. Surely the coaches need to take responsibility for that, because what I see is Boyd has been outstanding the last 2 weeks, and he's a big loss. Running defender, ability to lock down, okay, as well. Perfect replacement would have been Liam Stocker. Now, I'm sure the club had all these things, the coaches had all these things in mind about bringing Chera in, okay? But Liam Stocker's been outstanding in the last 2 weeks in the VFL. He was poor in the AFL. Well, I wouldn't say poor, but he lost a little bit of form. His kicking was poor. He's gone back. He's been really, really good as an intercept defender. And he would have given us some hardness in that back half against the Saints. And the fact of the fucking matter is, he's been groomed as a defender. He's getting no fucking time at all as a midfielder. No fucking time at all as a midfielder at VFL level. Just as a defender. Defender goes out, so they bring in a fucking underdone midfielder. Does not make fucking sense. So take responsibility for that. Poor. Absolutely poor. Really hard to find really good players on the night. Adam Stard, absolutely outstanding again. So much so that I think we're losing a bit of his offensive ability because we're asking him to do so much defensively, which isn't such a bad thing. We're seeing another element to his game. But what St Kilda got with Sinclair and Hill early on in that game, we're not quite getting from our running defenders at the moment. But he had the beautiful intercept in the first quarter. Well, I think where he cut off a Sinclair kick and gave the ball to, I think, Charlie, and Charlie kicked the goal in that first quarter. But he was outstanding. I thought he was clearly our best player. I mean, Walsh and Cripps battled on, and I thought Cripps really lifted in that last quarter, started to get some clearances out of the middle. He had 8 clearances for the game. It wasn't a poor game. But it's that point of difference we're lacking in the midfield at the moment. I'm not quite sure who that can be, who they can bring in. But it's certainly not working. It needs to be addressed. And to see the likes of Fisher rolling out on the wing as well, where he really hasn't played there at all this year, was quite surprising. So Sard, good. Thought Motlop, okay, from an opportunities point of view, you couldn't ask much more, okay, from him. I've actually thought Lewis Young stood up pretty well on King until late in the game. And King started to get a hold of him. I actually thought he was okay. But really, really, really difficult to find four-quarter performers. I thought Newman was really good, a really stoic performance by Newman in the back half. But a lot of players down. I thought Silvani was down on his usual impact. He coughed up some really poor decisions early in the game. It's just, I didn't think Harry or Charlie had particularly good games either in the front half. That's about it, guys. where do we go from here? We go over to the West against the West Coast Eagles for a big game, and a nervous late afternoon on the couch. I'll preview that game, I reckon, around about Thursday or Friday, and wait for the extended squads to come out. Anyway, hope you're well, and I'll speak to you soon.